All right, so we're going to do this through just the GoToMeeting recording. All right, so but this will be available on the webinar page on our support site once the marketing guy has gone through it and we put our little logos on it and stuff like that. So just keep looking for this recording, and if you need it for further reference and stuff. Okay. So let's see, let's go in and let me introduce this. Basically, what we're going to be doing is kind of talking about large format printing. One of the great things about the M2 and the DTG brand is we give you the flexibility to do the things that other printers cannot. Basically about sheer size of the prints that you can do. All right, so with their standard systems and everything like that, you get your 2 adult platens, which you see on the machine right here. You do have the ability to print across both of these platens by twisting the shirt sideways. Let me just pause this for a quick second. I have to go grab these 2 shirts that we're going to be printing on today, and we'll go from there. Just 1 second. Sorry about that pause there. Had some special shirts. Okay, so what we have here is with the standard setup with the M2, and if you are a customer that has a Viper 2, it's basically the same type of setup. You would be stretching the shirt across both of the platens, so that way you can do these oversized prints. All right, so this is basically what it would look like. So you would have your shirt up there going across the entire surface. Let me bring this forward so it's not too much of a shadow there. Okay, so stretching it tall, you would have it pre-treated and everything like that, and then you have the ability to print this entire surface. Just so y'all can see this, this print area is one of the largest in the entire market, especially for the price point. All right, so this is 24 inches wide by 16.5 inches deep. And you have the ability to print this entire area. Okay? Now, there are specialty platens that they sell for, so that way you don't have to have modular systems where they come apart, and that way you can have preloaded shirts, so it just makes it more efficient with loading and unloading. 2 of them that we have is, this is the 24 by 16.5. It's basically the exact same footprint, but without the cut down the middle here. All right, has the bases on the bottom, so that way we can go in, clicks into place, it always registers perfectly. All right, and then you still have height adjustments for the top plate, so that way it stays level to the head. All right, and then the one we're going to be using today is our 16 by 20, which is a little bit smaller of a print field, but you also recognize that this is the exact dimensions of your heat press. So without having one of the maxi heat presses, which are like the 24 by 27, the big heat presses, it doesn't really, you don't get as good of a result with doing an all-over print without having the heat press to be able to cure that entire area. So we're going to go through and we're going to show you how to adjust this, and then we're going to do an oversized print, kind of calculate the times, and do a couple different versions to see what the quality looks like and things like that. All right, so let's go through setting this up. All right, we'll set these to the side here. And if you're interested in all the different platen sizes, because there are youth, pocket platens, sleeve platens, hoodie platens, all kinds of different platens that you can get, definitely get in touch with one of your sales associates, and they can send you a list of all the available ones. Also, just so you know, they have custom platens that can be made too. You can give the specs of, like, say, a specific type of whatever project you may be wanting to do, and then you can have custom platens built by the manufacturer. But yeah, just get in touch with your sales associate, and they will be able to explain that a little bit further. All right, so with this, it clicks right into place, and then we're going to have to build where this thing goes. So I'm going to go through, we're going to do, it's basically the setup, if this is what you decide to do large garment or large design printing, these are all the steps that are going to be involved with once you get these custom platens. Okay, let's see what we got here. Got a tape measure. So the first thing we do anytime we get a brand new platen is we have to level these platens to the head. All right. So cool thing about this one, it's only got 4 screws instead of having to do 2 separate platens here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a straight edge. It doesn't really matter about the thickness. It's if it lays flat on top of the platen, like completely flat, because we're going to basically register the distance of how far the head is away from this. So that way we can pivot these corners up to make it all the exact same height. All right, so let's get into this. And then it's a little 10mm socket or 3/8 socket that you can go up underneath and adjust these screws and make these corners come up and down, so that way they're level. If your platens are not level on these machines, then your prints will not be crisp. You could have blur and even a head strike if you're not careful. All right, let's see here. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with our console. I'm going to start in this back corner because it's the closest to the head. So what I'll do is I'll lower the bed down a little bit. And we're going to hang this right over the edge here. All right, so that way when I slide the head over, let me bring the camera in here a little bit tighter. See if we can lower this down some. I'm going to lower it down a little bit further. All right. I think that's about level. Okay, so we'll move this over here. That way you can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, so we're going to register the first. So I unlocked my head over here, and I'm going to slide this little piece of plastic that's right under this release button over here. Let me pull this up real quick. So I'm basically using this release button right here, and this plastic right down there at the bottom of it, right above this little straight edge here. And then I'm going to look at it at a level, looking through the machine, so that way I can get it right close to, if not barely touching it. And then I'll move the bar over to the next side and make that corner do the exact same thing. All right, so here are these steps. All right, hold on 1 second. Okay, see if we got this started back up here. Looks like I've lost video for a second. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Turn the video off for a second and turn it back on. If you lost video at this time, what you would need to do is down there on your taskbar, you have the little snowflake looking thing for the GoToWebinar. So if you click on that, then you can, it should bring that video back up for you. Okay. So let's set this thing up here. So what I'm going to do is register this over the top. I'm going to look down here and I'm going to raise this bed up so that way it's almost touching this bar. So it's just like a sliver of light. And then what I do is come over and I'll hit the up and down button simultaneously, and it turns the light yellow instead of green. So that way if I put my hands in front of this gap, that it doesn't lower the bed automatically. All right, so let's see. So I've got that as my starting point. So I make sure that I can see how much light is basically between that black piece of plastic and that little bar. So then I'll move the head out of the way, come over here to this side, hang it off as well, pull the head over, and we'll see if it's the same exact distance, which this looks pretty close. So I don't even have to do an adjustment here in the back. So it's about the same exact distance there. All right, push the head out of the way. We'll check the front corners. All right, I'll pull it a little bit forward. Wow, this one looks like it's been adjusted pretty well. I'm not having to make any adjustments here. But I always like to verify it anytime I use a platen on that I haven't used yet on the machine. So, oops, it's too close here. All right, so we'll pull this over. This one looks a little bit tight, so I could lower that edge down just a little bit. So let's see what we got here. Go the other way. Has that same sliver of light. There we go. Now they're all exactly the same height. All right, let me go ahead and do one more head cleaning. So I load the bed. Haven't used this machine yet today. And then I will start with the explaining the graphic. Okay. So now, well, before we get to the actual graphic and the printing part of it, we're going to have to, excuse me, we're going to have to set up our software for that use of that particular template, because that's not one of the default templates that install. Okay, so we'll let that head cleaning finish, and then we're going to get our trusty ruler out and go through the measurements of where this thing hits. I did get a question from someone about that if they hold both light or both buttons at the same time, it doesn't go yellow. You got to be real careful. Sometimes it just basically turns a shade different. The way to tell if it works or not is if you put your hands inside here, that the bed doesn't automatically lower. If you're hitting those two buttons, no matter how many times you do it, and that gap laser still is, definitely create a support ticket. And one of our technicians will give you a call back to start troubleshooting to see what's going on with those buttons. Okay. All right. Go ahead and eject here. All right, from the looks of this design here, it still has the exact same base as the adult platen. So if I had an adult platen up here, it's just basically extending that adult platen over. So I can use this template that's already been created and just make an adjustment to it. So that way it will have the bigger print area. All right, so let's go back over here to the screen real quick. Let me switch off of video, and then I'm going to be showing my screen. All right, so that's the image we're going to print. One of our the people that are logged in right now are a potential client, and I thought this would be a good example for to show large format printing with basically with the supplies that we have and the supplies that you would need to go even bigger. Okay, so the only thing, just so I can touch base of what I did to the original image. The original image came in, it was a little bit faded and kind of washed out from the cropping on the side here. So what I did is just darken it up so it kind of transitioned into the black background better. One of the cool things about our RIP is that we have a black shirt queue that has a feature called Knock Me Blackout turned on. So if you're printing to black shirts and stuff, that it can use the black of the shirt to be the black of the design. It helps the artwork transition into the shirt better, as well as saving you money on ink cost as well. Okay, so we'll come back to this and we'll kind of show you what I need to do to send it over to the RIP software. All right, let's minimize this. So we'll open up our RIP software here. So inside here, during your basic training and stuff like that, they explain what the workflow is through this, like how to first choose your template, then import your artwork, and then process it, then print it. Okay, so you have these lists here of available platens. So what I'm going to do, I have to create this 16 by 20 platen because I don't have it on there. All right, so to do this, I'll go up here to my device drop-down menu, and I'll manage print media. All right, so if I scroll down here, these are all just default template sizes for most all printers, so they default in there. I hardly ever use those. But these are the ones that you'll notice from that template drop-down menu. All right, so I definitely already have a 1-up and a 2-up, so I could either adjust either one of these. But just so I said it and so y'all could see the example of what it looked like, I'm going to use that 2-up here. All right, so from this, so I don't mess up the one that's already there because I will need that, I'll come up here and make a copy of it. All right, and then we're going to call this one 16 by 20 M2. So we click OK. Now it drops that at the bottom of the list. So then I can double click it. So then I've got to make this my new template here. All right. So it's the same, it's not quite the same depth, or it might be. We'll get the ruler out and actually check it real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this number 2 slot because it's only a single shirt print. So what we'll do is go in here and hit the remove button. So now we have this one. All right, so the same corner of that 2-up is the same on this platen over here. Okay, so but we have to make a measurement, make this wider. So now that I've activated it, see, if I didn't have that clicked on, it would be white, but to get the measurements and the positioning, I have to click on it. So that way it becomes active. So these are the positions that defaulted for that first slot. So let's see. So let's get this ruler out. I'm just going to verify that the depth of the thing is just right. It's actually 16 inches exactly. So what I'm going to do is look how deep it is, how it's going into the machine, because this is the tray bed that those platens are sitting on. So this is exactly 16 tall. If I hit enter, then the update becomes active. You always have to hit update for it to update. Then we need to make it wider. This is how wide it is for that standard platen. So let's see how wide this one is. It's exactly 20 inches. So we'll change that to 20 and update. So now it's starting to look like the platen that's sitting on my machine. All right, so this is how far over it is from the edge, which that was already the template for the 1-up. So that's the exact same as what it's on the machine. And then how far down it is as well. Okay, so now we'll hit save and close. So now in my template list, I have this 16 by 20 M2X. And now that looks like what we have on our machine. So I'll switch back over to my camera and kind of show you. So looking at the machine over here, you can kind of see that on the bed. So if I looked at it from the top view, that's kind of upside down with what's on your screen there. But yeah, as you can see, it's the same template. All right, so now let's go back over here and we will start prepping up our shirt to get ready to print. All right, so one of the things you do have to worry about, and the cool thing about this type of shirt, right, or this platen, is it kind of encompasses an oversized print for pretty much every size shirt. All right, so let me show you the difference. All right, so large, no problem at all. It covers up, you're able to tuck it all the way around. Let's go down here to a medium. So the medium, it starts getting shorter. And I wish I had a small to show you, but the small would probably come up about an inch higher here. But it would still be able to be tucked into this. So this can kind of encompass everything from small up to 2X, 3X for this big oversized type print. But if you were trying to do the really oversized print, that's that entire area. Just imagine if you had the 2 adults up here to have that split. If we take that same medium shirt, sometimes that gets a little bit too big. So I have to worry about these collars being up here and it down here. So I would end up, for if I was just using this platen right here, the large size, I would probably have to build some sort of topper or do like the bottom foam type stuff of the heat press, like a neoprene pad, that was just shorter than this area right here. The reason we have to think about this stuff is because of the gap laser, all right? Because the way the machine is designed, it prints to the highest level area, meaning that if anything like a collar or something like that goes across that laser that's reading the shirt, it's going to think that this is the highest area and it's going to drop it down to the proper gap, which is the safety for the print head so it can clear it, right? So, but that means this is now lower than it should be, and then you get kind of like a blurry kind of double kind of image printing. So just keep that in mind with what you're doing and what size you're trying to print at and things like that. Just because it can print this big, sometimes it's not necessary. All right, so let's see. Let's put this out of the way. But also, this is a great one for like printing canvas, wood. You could print grid lines on here to put like multiple objects on there and just have it as one big print area and set it up that way. There's all kinds of niche little projects that you can do. All right, let's see what shirt we're going to print here. So we have, let's go with the, I'm just going to do this Port & Company ring spun here. Pretty basic shirt, just cotton. It looks like it's a little bit wrinkled, so I'm going to hit it on the heat press for like 5 seconds just to kind of mat that out. Let me twist the camera a little bit so y'all can see everything. And then we're going to pre-treat the shirt. Pre-treat is essential anytime that you do dark garments. If you've already been through training, you know this, or been printing. But if you haven't, this is the only way that white ink can go to dark garments. That's what's kind of cool about the direct-to-garment industry is we have the ability to print light and dark garments as if they were a piece of paper. So you can get really high-res images, stuff that like screen printing can't do, those unlimited colors and things like that. All right, so let's get this shirt prepped here. All right. I always use a piece of release paper no matter what because I don't want the top shell to ever start getting dirty or leaving lint or sticking to anything. So I always use that as a protective sheet. The release paper we sell from Coleman & Company is one of the best products because we've tested all kinds of different papers, and these are the best ones that we've found. There are 2 different types of paper. There's a matte finish, and then there's also the release paper. The matte finish is for the curing process that gives it a nice smooth hand. All right, that's different from screen printing or like a transfer. All right, so from there, now we're going to add our pre-treat. So that just gave it kind of a smooth surface to get the pre-treat going down. The reason I'm not doing these oversized prints on the dark shirt is because I don't have the oversized heat press here in-house. It's still, we're waiting on the delivery of it. So once we get that, we'll probably do a little demonstration video of using the larger format ones as well. Okay, but this is the exact same size, your Spider Mini, as the platen up here. So it kind of works out perfect. And this would be your typical oversized prints. These are the ones that you can charge more for on a retail level. Because if somebody asks for that sheer size, they're paying for the time that it takes to do it. All right, so we'll flip this up here. Try to get that as square as possible. I know this one, I'm going to do it about 5.5. I haven't tested this particular brand yet. So usually when I start with pre-treatments and things like that, there's a range between like 3 and about 7 to 8, depending on the type of fabric and the way the pre-treatment goes down on it. And it's the way it looks that you'll start getting used to and things like that. But definitely if you have issues with a particular shirt, then definitely contact support. I mean, we have tons of knowledge about this stuff and at least can tell you where to start at. All right, so we'll hit our little green start button here. Lays down our pre-treat. This is why I love this machine. The old-fashioned way is using the Wagner hand sprayer. It does work very efficiently, and if I was doing, like, that wouldn't be the core of my business, would be oversized printing and stuff. But if I was doing that, I would actually build a spray booth that would have a board that was the exact size, or maybe just a hair bit bigger than this. So that way I could lean the shirt over top of it and then spray that area, all right? So then I come in with my oversized heat press and then press that entire area so it's a single pressing. What happens is if you do a double pressing, sometimes the steam escaping and stuff like that can create like a little pre-treat area that like has the white ink kind of sink down into it. It works perfect on white shirts to do a double pressing because you're not dealing with the white ink sitting on top of the fabric. So it only, the when you're printing to these for dark shirts, that's when you need that oversized heat press. Okay, so let's pull this out. So I can definitely tell my pre-treat is on there. The biggest thing I have to worry about is if it has a real wet look to it. Okay, if it's real wet looking, then I need to not press it immediately, because what it'll do is skin over like a glazed donut, because you're basically flash frying it with the heat press. So what I can do, there's little techniques, and I do have tech talks and stuff like that on those techniques. But the easiest way is to basically, well, here, there's a lot of surface fuzz. Let me see if I can show you that on camera. So I see that. What I want to do is either roll that in, spread it out with like put a piece of release paper down and spread it, or I can do a little trick right here. Just kind of push that surface moisture in so it's more even. Okay. So I'll put this up on the heat press, but I'm going to do a trick called hovering. All right. What that does is let the pre-treatment diffuse into the cotton, so that way it doesn't sit up on the surface, making it that stiff, shiny feel. So to hover it, this is a little Geo Night press here. It has a little bar. Let me pull the camera over so you can see it a little bit better. This little bar that hangs down from the electromagnet. Let's see if I can get it in the camera there. As it pops up when you close it all the way. But with that bar hanging down, if I just touch it to the magnet, it makes this clamshell hover about a ½ inch above the shirt. So just that like inductive heat there, it makes it kind of like sink that pre-treatment in there and kind of steam off any extra. So I only have to do this for probably about like 20-30 seconds, depending on how wet it looks. Because I'll do another shirt right after this, and it's a district made. And just the way I'll use the same setting on the Spider Mini, and the pre-treat will look differently of how it's kind of handled by that piece of fabric. So that's why we have to tell you it's a gray area of what the exact number you use for pre-treatment. All right, so now it doesn't have that really wet look to it. So I'll go ahead and put a piece of release down and press it with medium pressure for probably about 10-15 seconds. All right, and the biggest thing I'm looking for when this pops up is if this paper sticks to the shirt, because if it sticks and I peel it, it's going to wick fuzz up, and then I'll have little white speckles because I'll have fuzz that's painted white with my underbase, and then when I cure it, they fold over, leaving little white specks all in the image. So it has a little bit of stick to it, so I'm just going to press it for another 5 seconds. It doesn't have to be bone dry, but the basic premise of production is to get the best result with the least amount of time. Okay, so it's not sticking, it just kind of floats off of there. Set that to the side. So now I have a pre-treated shirt that has an area that's been pre-treated that's 16 by 20. So now we're going to go over here and load our machine. Okay. So normally I would have like a loading table and stuff, but this is a little webinar room. Autofocus. All right. So I'm just going to do it right up here on the machine like this. So I square up my shirt. I usually always start with my top, and as I'm not cramming the entire shirt up in there, it is basically just enough to hold it. And what I'm trying to do is keep the fabric taut, not stretched. So I keep my hands across from each other so it's not skewing it. And then I don't do it all in one, just going all the way up. I try to keep it like spread, so it's spread evenly. And that way I don't have any wrinkles or anything sticking up on the top. This just gives it a little bit more bite. And that's hooped. And we spin it back around. Make sure it clicks into place. All right, so that's now ready to print. I did take into account for the collar being a little bit wrapped around here, so that's where I'm going to start my print at. It's probably just about an inch or so down from this side here, so that way it hits in the proper place. But I don't want to go lower than where my pre-treat was. All right, so I'll push this in and get it leveled. So I have to turn back my gap on. It's kind of hard to see it even on camera. It's just an LED, so sometimes the amber and the green just look a little bit different. All right, so we'll hold the up button until it stops. So I'm registering that first edge of the shirt. All right. the light turns red, and then goes back to green. If I'm unsure, if I had like a seam or something up there, or just wasn't sure, I always tell people you can manually scan it slowly. And if you hear that bed dropping pretty fast, that means that something's either not level or something's sticking up like a tag or something like that. And then once I get it inside the cover, I can tap load. It'll suck it in and be basically print ready. All right, so now let's go back over here to the computer, and we're going to set up our design. Okay, so the little things that you have to make sure of when you are printing something is the size of it. Okay, anything below like a 6x6, you can't really blow it up depending on what resolution you put it at. All right, but you don't want something that's huge with megabytes, so it would take longer to process. So let's go in here, and I'll go to image size just to show you. So this particular image is only 40 megabytes. It is a 10 by 7 with 300 DPI. Do I need to do anything to this? No. This, if it fits within that adult platen range, like kind of can fill it up, then which is the 11.5 by 16, then you can blow it up to the bigger sizes because it's not like it's going up to a poster board size. So as long as the image is a decent resolution when it was created, then you don't really have to do too much editing to it. All right, so what I did was take out the background that was created on it and just basically separated it and then put a color fill behind it, so no matter what size I did the canvas, that it would always be black on there. All right, so this is going onto a black garment, so I put it onto a black background for that feature of the Knock Me Black out. Okay, so let's sit here. I've already saved it. Let me minimize this. And then we're going to import our image here. All right. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is to tell it the orientation when I import something, that where I want it to flip the design. Because if I did it right now, because I copied the adult platen, it would have the top of the design up here, and every time I import something, I would have to rotate it, which is kind of annoying. So I'm going to go back to my Manage Print Media. Go down to the 16 by 20 here, double click it to edit it, and then click on my template, and then it had rotate none. I'm going to have rotate 270, and then update it and save it. So that way, every time I import something, the top of the design will be right here. So let's go find that piece of artwork. Okay. So as you can see, it's not really that much smaller than my template area. So let's see if we can we'll wait for the preview to come through. And then I have these little features. If I didn't want to do it to a specific size, I can just hit fit to page. Now I don't want to do it right at the edge just in case, because I haven't done a template adjustment on it. So I'm just going to make it just a tick smaller. Let's go like 15.25. So that way it's just inside here, okay? And then I also noticed that by tucking it in, I had a little bit of pretreatment right there. So let's just go 15. There we go. And then I'm going to move this up to the top here. Right there. Okay. So let's see what this is going to cost us. All right, so let's go ahead and just pre-rip it. So this is the best queue. The best queue is printing at a 1440 by 720 color code and a 14 by 40 by 1440 underbase. Now this is the slowest mode, but it gets you the best ink coverage. All right, but you also have a fast mode as well. That would print at a 720 underbase. And then you can mix and match these so it prints the underbase a little bit faster and the top coat gives you the good color ink. It depends on the shirt and how well you've pre-treated and things like that. But let's just show you the quality setting first. So the price for that one comes up to $2.13 of ink to print at this size. All right, so let me go ahead and click back over here. I'm going to make sure, since I just plugged this one in for this webinar, I'm going to make sure my port configuration is done. You don't have to do this every time. Once you have it set up from the install, then most of the time it stays there unless you unplug your printer. All right, I'll do that for all of those. Okay, so let me get the camera started as well. And I'll come over here and hit print. All right, turn the camera back on. Print head has started moving. So if you're timing, go for it. Let's see if we can bring the camera over a little bit so you can see how it's laying the ink down. Let me see. I have to move the machine over just a little bit here. I can get the camera a little bit closer there. So what it's doing is doing the underbase here. So the cool thing about our RIP software too, that it just doesn't print a solid white mask to put a image on top of it. It treats the underbase as a graphic. So if it's a darker color going on top of it, what would happen is it would print less white ink because it doesn't need to reflect back as much. The ink cost calculations, once the thing is finished printing, I'll actually show you the breakdown of what the liter price, because it is based on a liter price of this ink. And it'll actually break it down per channel, like black, white, or black, CMYK and white, how much ink that it used for this particular print. After it finishes the underbase, the machine will automatically suck it back in and print the top coat on top of it. Whoops, I got it a little bit short on the pre-treat there. So that lettering down at the bottom got a little fuzzy down there. I needed to center up my shirt a little bit better. I tucked it in too far at the top. But it shows how important Pretreat is to the white ink. And then for the next print, I do have another shirt that we're going to do that will show how it was cropped out by the customer that sent it in. But I'm going to do that at the speed setting to show the difference of what the speeds are. And then there are other print modes that you can do for like drafting if you want to do like those like aged look type of garments too. You can adjust how much white ink is actually printed and set those things up. I have a question about from Steve here. What should the print port be in as ours flips back and forth between two named ports due to errors? With that, I'm not sure what it's actually doing. If you could create a support ticket, and what we can do is instead of using GoToWebinar, we'll use GoToMeeting, and we can take over your printer to kind of see, or take over your PC to kind of see what's going on with it. It could be if the printers get powered off, and as soon as you turn them back on, that Windows automatically assigns the next available USB drive. all right, or USB number. So depending on which sequence that you turn them back on is what the number it's going to associate with, and also what other type of devices you have plugged into it as well. So yeah, if you need some help with that, definitely create a support ticket for us, and we can give you a call and go through all those different little setup issues, because it's probably just something simple. And if not, then we can go through and see if we need to update your software or anything like that. Okay, almost done with the underbase. And like I said, if this was going to be something that I do frequently, I would definitely set up a spray booth to use the Wagner sprayers for this. Reason being is you get a little bit bigger coverage, and you can guarantee that you can overspray the pre-treatment a little bit, so that way you can maximize the print area. Because right when you start getting to the edges and things like that, that's where it starts getting weak around the edges of the pre-treat having enough down. And if you ever need to see like a good hand spraying technique of how to set up the spray gun and all that different stuff, we do have some videos on how to do that. It's actually in one of our M2 training videos for, it's like Chapter 7, Printing Dark Garments. But also in this time while these things were printing, I would also be setting up, like if I was doing like multiples of these, or like say it was a family reunion and they wanted to pay the extra, like say take a $15 shirt and turn it into like a $25, $30 shirt for the oversized print. Some people want that. They don't mind. And say you're doing a family reunion. I would already have 2 of these platens that were adjusted to the exact same height. Like I would check them both. And then I would preload the next shirt on there, and as soon as this one finished it, take it, set it to the side, pop the new one on, hit print, and then deal with the one that came off. All right, let's see here. Back this up a little bit. See what happens when we take it off. All right. Yeah, and somebody just logged in, and yes, I did record this, so it should be available probably, I don't know, probably next week or so, or maybe in a couple days, just because they have to go through, add the logos to it and everything like that. But it'll be on the Tech Talk part of the support site, and that's at support.coldesi.com. All right. Finishing out the little lightning bolts over here to the side. But pretty cool pupper there. Down here at the bottom, just so you can see it, that's what I was saying about how important Pretreat is and the coverage of it. I got it a little bit too big, so that's why it's kind of sinking in down here at the bottom. So I would just need to Pretreat it a little bit further down. So what I did was up there at the top, I had too much of that tucked in over. All right, so there's our little pupper. Nick, if you were timing that, could you please write it in the questions field what the actual time was? That would be great. All right, so once I'm done with that, I'll take it off of here, and we will send this over to our heat press to cure it. All right. So yeah, let's see if I can bring this around real quick. Got a little pupper, but check out the size of it. It's a nice big oversized print there. Let's see if we can move that back a little bit. So yeah, that's for a large shirt. I mean, that's a big old print. So 2-minute secure time. I should already have another shirt printing by this time as well. So that's where the production comes into it. So you do have a choice of different finishes. Like I said, you could use the stiffer release paper. It'll give it a semi-shiny finish. And we also have the matte parchment paper, and it will do that as well. Okay, so the time on it was about 11 minutes, 15 seconds, give or take a couple seconds. So that's not too bad for that would be the slowest it would print. All right, so now we're going to go through, let's prep up that district apparel shirt that I was telling you about. All right, it's a different type of cotton, different color, just different manufacturer, so it kind of handles the pre-treatment going on there is a little bit different. Sorry about the blurriness. Let it focus. All right, cool. But I'm going to do the cool thing about the two images that were sent to me. Even though they're different images, they're still about the same size with coverage of how far it's going to fill up that platen. And so it's going to be kind of a apples to apples kind of comparison of speed because it's the distance. I could do a square and it's going to take the same amount of time of printing as if it was printing all in the middle. Okay? Okay, so for the cure times for the P30I inks that go out with the M2s, the cure times for those are 340 degrees, 2 minutes for dark garments, or anytime you use white ink. It doesn't matter if you do one layer of white. If it's got white on the shirt, it's 2 minutes at 340 degrees. Then for light garments, it's only 1 minute, and but there's a different light garment pretreatment as well. Okay. And then you can go through that. That's all in the training classes and in the videos and stuff like that. So that way you don't have to we don't have to go through that kind of educational thing here. Okay, almost done. I should have pre-prepped this shirt before I did that. That would have been proper production. All right. So any questions so far? Oh, on the Viper 2. So somebody was asking about the Viper 2 cure times. Depending on which ink set you use, most of the ink sets that go out with the Viper 2s are the genuine DTG because of the degassing of the inks and stuff like that. just a different system altogether. There's 2 cure times that you can use for that one. All right. So if you want to do the 340 degrees, it's 3 minutes with white ink, and without white ink, it's 2 minutes. But you can. We also got this earlier. I think it was mid last year or something like that from the ink manufacturer, that if you increase the temperature to 358, you can reduce the cure times by a minute. So it'd be 1 minute for the for light garments and 2 minutes for darks. And then if you ever get scorching and stuff like that, definitely create a support ticket. I can send you a link to Coleman & Company. What I like to use is an ultra thick cutaway embroidery backing to cover bigger than the heat press, so it acts as a heat sink. So the yellowing goes to the backing and not your actual garment. All right. So there's our little pupper. Pretty cool little print here. Let's see if I can get it without too much reflection on it. There we go. Yeah, the camera doesn't really give it justice of what it looks like up close, but yeah, good stuff. Let's get this one prepped. Just matting out those wrinkles that were on there from it being balled up and stuff. Probably need to do that to this shirt too. All right. I'm going to prime this up a little bit more. So I have a little purge button back here in the back of this thing. And if you need more information on how to kind of maintenance and troubleshoot the Spyder Mini, definitely get in touch with us. I have done some tech talks in the past about it, about how to, like, taking the tips off, cleaning them, and stuff like that. So I noticed it looks like there's a little fragment right at it spraying out because it's not fan blading all the way across. So I got to make sure that this thing, that when it pre-treats, that it is pre-treating evenly. Because if you don't have a good pre-treat on the garment, then the print won't come out that great. All right, we only use soft type of things to clean these things off. I can use the edge of like a piece of release paper, and what I found that works really good is the edge of a Teflon sheet. After I get the bulk of the sticky stuff around the nozzle's edge with this brush, or a nice soft bristle toothbrush works real good too. All right. Make sure nothing's globbered up at the nozzle face. Make sure I can see light through it. Take this release paper here, and I just slide it through the little slit, making sure nothing's in there either. Okay, and we'll put it back on. Real world use of the DTG. Yeah, the pre-treatment, just to kind of let you know what it is, it's kind of a salt water and a polymer solution, like a glue, that basically when it's a chemical that reacts to the white ink. So when the white ink hits it, it sucks all the water out of it and makes it a solid, basically turning it into, lack of a better word, like a layer of vinyl, okay? So if you don't have enough on there, then it doesn't sit up on top of the fabric. And that's where down there, that little boss where it was kind of crackly looking, that's from lack of pre-treatment. It didn't sit on top of the fabric and solidify. Then hold on one second. Not better. So I hit my little green button here. Not that one. So as you can see here, this was that different brand that I was talking about. So it looks similar. Let me see if I can show you. but I can definitely see it's a little bit wetter. Like I can like almost smear the pre-treat across there. So let's even that out a little bit. A little cool little technique. If you don't have a foam roller, you just push that surface moisture into it. Fill that up. All right. I'll take this over the heat press, let it hover like I did before. See, look at my shoes. All right. All right. Oh, I forgot to hover. See, even I forget sometimes. Okay. And I'm just basically looking for it to not be shiny wet anymore. Put the paper up. Make sure it doesn't have a bunch of like cruddies on there or anything. Press it for about 15 seconds. And I'm just making sure that the paper floats off of it. It's not sticking to it. All right. Let's go back over here to the machine. So as if it was stretching across both platens, do it this way. Now I got to make sure I can see this little rectangle here where the pre-treat is. So it still kind of puts it up a little bit on top there. So if that would be the reason why I would want to use a hand sprayer, so it's not exactly 16 by 20. So that way, if I have pre-treatment rolling around the edge there, I can get really close to the edge. All right. Look at the surface here. We'll fit it in a little bit smaller there. Let's bring up our next image here. All right, nice autofocus. All right, so I'm going to switch off the camera real quick. Go back over here and we'll set up our next design. All right. This one. And when they came in, they did have a kind of a white border around that. So I didn't want to pin a big box around the thing. So I kind of took that out and did that color fill. So this is what the image looks like kind of cropped out there. All right, but by putting a black background on it, it's going to help blend it into the shirt a little bit better. All right, but we're going to use a different cue this time just to make sure. All right, so this one's a little bit wider. It's 15 by, it looks like 20, so it already had a big size, but let's check it real quick. All right, so yeah, 15 by 20, 300 DPI. I don't really need to do anything to it. Let's minimize this and my bridge. All right, so let's go to graphics. The reason I would go to a graphics cue is there's a lot of color in there. And the graphics cue saturate a little bit more for the print job, so it gives it a little bit more of a punch of color. The photo cue does it more photorealistic. So it's one of those things you have to kind of judge your images to kind of see what it looks like. Or do a test print, shrink up the design, do a test print, and see which cue works best for you. And then you'll get used to how it prints and how it handles colors, and then you'll automatically know once you see an image, these are probably the characteristics of the way I want it to print. All right, but let's go in and I'll show you my Q settings. Let me bring that platen template back up here. And I can double click, go into my Q settings and see how my layer profile. So we print in layers, so you have an underbase and a color layer. So this underbase is a 720 by 720 bidirectional. That means high speed. All right, other print modes that we can choose, like I can make custom print modes, things like that. Like I can go in and edit, or I would have to go into the print mode editor, but then I can actually go down to a 360 if I needed to. All right, but that would be like more of a proof print instead of an actual sellable print. But there's all kinds of different stuff that we could go through. All right, so this is just the standard install. So then we also have the 720 print mode for the color. Then I would have the ability to change that to the higher print modes, like the 1440 by 720. So that way it just, you get more of an ink coverage down and less of an underbase. That would be for like the Pretreat was really going good, your white ink's flowing perfect nozzle checks, where you would almost have to reduce the amount of white ink that's going down because it's really sitting up on top of the fabric. Yeah, go down to the speed modes. And one of the things a lot of people forget is that an end client doesn't know that you have quality modes versus speed modes. All right, so anytime I try to do like a sampling for the customer, that's what's kind of great. It's sort of like embroidery. I can, like a sew out sample, I can do a print sample and have the customer approve it. And then if they want it to be, say, more vibrant or just a little bit thicker feeling, then you can upcharge it. That, well, I do have a setting that I can add more ink in, but it does cost a little bit more. And it's like a way to kind of upsell your services. So touch on that. All right, so some of the options that we have here, let me slide this over. Like for my underbase, I can look at it like I'm printing at 100% white ink, it's max capacity. If it was printing, like if it was puddling or a real small design, then I might even want to reduce that down to like 90, 80, depending on what I'm actually looking at. Choke basically chokes the white underbase underneath those colors, so that way it doesn't have white peeking out. And I can do highlights. I can do all kinds of different stuff. And we do touch on this during the trainings, and we have videos and stuff of how to use this stuff, which is all available like the C6 manual. You can go to our support site, which is support.coldesi.com, and click on the DTG and then DTG Rip Pro. And then it'll have all kinds of documentation and videos and stuff like that of some of the capabilities of what this rip can actually do. Okay, so we're going to do a speed print here. Let me go ahead and bring the image in, Mantis. Make that just a hair bit smaller. So I didn't want it to print down there on that edge, but I had that lip there I was explaining. So this still fills up that area, so 18.75 by 14. All right, let's pre-rip it to see what the ink cost is first. And then, oh, also, since I can go back to the other one, I forgot to explain this, I can always go into my ink cost right here and go to Properties and View for Page Content. And go to Other and Cost. And this is our breakdown here. So based on the liter price of $139 for your colors and $149 for your white, this is the actual usage that it used during that print job, and this is the total of how much it cost. All right, so we're using less than a penny to print most of these colors. There was a lot of magenta in that because of like the reds in the hair of the dog and stuff like that. And then the white was what cost most because we're printing with 4 channels of white ink to get that really nice underbase to block out the color of the shirt, so that way the color of the print can basically be radiated off of the shirt. And then you can also bill in like material costs and stuff like that, but this isn't something you would really want to show to a customer. This is just for your information and stuff. Okay, and then you can print this stuff out, things like that, so you can keep track of like a customer folder. Anytime, like if you're doing like repeat type stuff, you can actually set up a print job, and then after that's done and you know that you're probably going to have the exact same print job later on, then you can archive those print jobs as well. And we can teach you that in training of how to do so. Okay, so let's go back to this one. I don't know if I had the ink prices set up on it properly. No, I didn't. Let me go back in. We'll re-import it. Okay. So those are the genuine prices, and these are the P30i prices. Bulk ink. Okie dokie. All right, let's go ahead and spool this sucker up. Now, normally if I was printing this to like a customer shirt, I'm not a big, and this is just like a graphic standpoint. Like with these edges here, I probably would have taken like an eraser brush or like a paintbrush with like a real feathered edge and kind of faded this in a little bit more and made it like not so squared off. But those are things that you can get into as a designer and things like that. So, but this is just a sample test print. All right, so what was the ink cost on this one? With the P30i is $1.75. So $1.75 versus the $2.13. So about a third cheaper because it's putting down less ink. All right, so let's go ahead and print this sucker. We've already done part configuration, so I don't have to go through that again. Let me turn back on the camera here. See if I can slide right in here. So you can tell that it's advanced. Basically, print resolution is the speed that the print head and the platen travel coinciding with each other. So with the higher resolutions, the bed moves faster as it's going. So the overlap of the swipes of the print head are further apart. So that way it doesn't have as much ink going down. Oh, sorry about that. Well, I'll have to reprint it then. Okay. They did want the white line around the sample. Okay. Let's see. That is okay. It will look much better the way. Oh, okay. Never mind. I didn't read the second part of the question. Yeah, the only thing that would have changed by having the white line on there is the ink cost would have probably gone up a little bit. But it's still traveling the exact same distance because your line would be about right around that edge of this graphic, so it wouldn't really even make a huge difference. And also, another thing that you can do if you do want to use these speed modes, because the white underbase is definitely not going to be as thick as the quality modes. So to compensate for the visibly white areas, and you wanted a little bit more out, you can actually add a highlight to the color mode, so that way it actually turns on white ink during the color pass. So that way it will, and it only does it by a small percentage because white technically doesn't mix with the color. It only kind of murks it out. So what it would do is turn on the highlight, and for those visibly really bright areas, it would just hit it with another shot of white. So it's a cool little feature that it does. You know, our RIP software is one of the most powerful RIP softwares on the entire market. Yeah, some of the other manufacturers of printers out there, they actually sell it as an add-on, and we actually include it with our systems because we want our customers to have the maximum capability from the start. But with the way this print's looking, the speed mode looks just as good as the quality mode. And if you don't show anybody the quality mode, they'll never know about it. So it saves you money on your ink, saves you time on and it might not be that much of a time difference, like it's only about a third faster or something like that, but add that up, say, to times 100 shirts. So then that does start saving you time and things like that, and you're using less ink. So, and if the customer approves it and likes the way it looks, who's to say it's not quality to them? I did that a lot on my like 1-2 color logos that don't have a lot of like artistic detail in it and stuff like that. Like a bar shirt or something like that that has just like a 1 color logo and then like a little bit of text under it. I would do that in my speed mode all day long because it doesn't really need that real finite, the higher resolutions. I'm trying to crank these things out as quick as possible to get over to my next order. If the print head's moving, you're making money. Unless you're just playing, of course. So yeah, Nick, when this one comes up, definitely give me the times on that one as well. But typically, most of your printing for customers, like end clients, unless you're doing your own clothing line, will fit within this typical adult platen. Let me see if I can give you a kind of a representation of it against somebody's body. So I'm 6'1", and look at the print area here. I mean, it covers up most any type of graphic that you're trying to do. All right. And then say I have a design that's wider than longer. Then I have this width all the way across. This is shoulder to shoulder, so that would be like a 2X or 3X, 4X, 5X, and like one of those championship right across there. So it just depends on what you're doing, what the graphic is, and how to optimize it for best output. So yeah, let's take a look. So definitely nice, vibrant colors. Real generous size to it. I did squeeze it up a little bit so because of my pre-treat line down there, but I don't have any of that degradation where it was starting to sink into the shirt like on the little boss on the other one. But yeah, for truly doing like the maximum you can do, then you would definitely probably want to invest into doing those maximum sizes. Creating a spray booth, also getting the larger heat presses, those type things. Oops. All right. So unfortunately, we did not get the time for this one, but it was a little bit less. I mean, once we do the actual, we can watch the video, it'll be on camera how long it is, so you can look at the ticker. All right. So let me pick this up. I wish the wasn't so bright. Let's see if I can get a good angle on it. So yeah, pretty good for a speed print. Pretty slick. But the only thing you can see, and I'll see if I can get it close enough, is that, say right in here, you can see a little bit of the grain of the fabric, but which is totally acceptable in most industries. So if you wanted it to be a smooth, white, complete block out, no grain, that's when you would have to switch up to the quality modes. All right. So definitely hope this is informative. I mean, it's not the simplest, or it's not like rocket science to get this done. And then from what it noticed with the time and everything, it looks probably about 7 minutes, where the other one took around 11. So you shaved off about 3 minutes of time. You times that about 100 shirts, that's a lot of minutes. So yeah, use your speed modes whenever possible. All right. So any other questions before we draw this tech talk to a close? If you need clarification on like specifics or just like something that you're doing, definitely get in touch with us on the support line. Like I said, I can definitely link in, and I can help you out over the phone and all that stuff. So yeah, anytime you have any questions at all, please create a support ticket. We're here to help you. All right, guys. If you need like specific sizes of the platens and prices, definitely get in touch with your salesperson. They have a list of all the prices and availabilities. A lot of these things can just be drop shipped to you within a few days, and then we can go from there. Hope you all enjoyed it, and see you next time.